Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me this Monday morning. As you start to jump on here this morning, let me just get myself situated before I get started. For those of you who this is the first time joining me, I'd like to jump on Monday morning, kind of give you your real estate market update. I do go over some information specific to Cuyahoga County, but I also share a bit of information, just the real estate market overall. So today I just want to start off by talking about where do we go from here. There's a lot still happening in the marketplace. We moved right out of COVID-19 and now into these protests, riots, looting across the map. I find it very fascinating and interesting to me with everything that's going on, where we thought that the things that we were seeing here in the United States of racism only were affected by Black families and folks here, but we're seeing in various parts of the world where people are so upset they're tearing down a lot of statues and monuments. So there's a world of frustration around all of this. But where do we go from all of this? So we're mad, we're rioting, we're looting, we're protesting, we're doing all of these things. And so what is that next plan? And for me, I'm always going to be in my real estate bubble. And I'm still going to go back to the fact that owning real estate, houses, land, whatever it may be, creates that stability for any economy. When you own the land that you live on, it provides a lot of various opportunities. You start to build your community around you, and it helps. So wealth creation, right? So this is the area that we have to focus on as we move forward and we start to transition out of here and look for a way from growth. And so how do we create that wealth creation? It's going to be all through real estate. So when you own a piece of property, over time, that value starts to increase over time. And it allows you to start pulling out the equity in the home to do things like start your own business, send your kids to college, and various other things that maybe you want to get done. And then people always look at buying real estate as, or sometimes they position it wrong and they think that, when they buy a house or buy a piece of real estate, like that money is gone. You always have to remember that when you invest in real estate, it's always there. That money that you spent on the house, it's always there. So when you need to get that money back out, you can sell that property and get your money back. So one of the things that I like to talk to people about is buying multi-unit properties. So in traditional financing, if you're going FHA or conventional loans or VA or whatever, anything that's 4 units or less is considered residential property. So with that being residential property, it allows you to purchase a multi-unit apartment building, 3-family home, 2-family home, and you could live in 1 unit and then rent the other units out and essentially be living in that property rent-free. So a lot of times when people are buying real estate, they buy much later in life, and it becomes a little harder to do something like that because they have a lot more baggage, right? So for me, I have a lot more baggage. I have a husband, I have 4 children. So to live in 1 unit of a apartment building, because oftentimes those are either going to be a 2 or 3 bedroom, much smaller space, it's a lot harder for me to do at this late in life, unless you are single or no kids. But it's better to start moving into this at a younger age because you may not require as much space. You're not at home as much. So you can live in that 1 unit and then rent that other unit out. So we are having a little bit of a inventory issue here in the Cleveland market. And it's a little bit harder, or it takes a little bit more patience for you to find a house. So something else that you can consider doing as part of that is going ahead and buying that single family house that you see that you like. And it could eventually become that family house for you. But what you can do also is rent out individual rooms. So you take one room, you rent out the other rooms, and then you have those common areas in the house. This is another way that will allow you to save some money. This is the biggest piece of it. We want to make sure that we are saving money and generating more income for ourselves to be able to put money away. So this is just something that you want to consider and think about. But the goal is to help increase your cash flow instead of just always putting money out there, spending. You want to figure out ways to keep as much cash in your pocket. A lot of times people are like, well, I'm not in a position, or I'm not necessarily ready to purchase my first home. But you have to think about, you're paying all this money into rent because rents are really high. Even if you are looking at a single family home or these apartment buildings, the rents are so high on there, you can actually own a home. And the fact that you can either rent out additional rooms or rent out other units, those individuals are paying off that mortgage on your behalf. And then again, we're keeping more money in your pocket on a day-to-day. Or you don't even have to live, you can work it out to where, you live in a certain portion in the attic of the place, and then you rent out those larger units. So a few things to get in order. If you're thinking about buying a home, if you haven't already done so, you want to make sure that you have a bank account open. Oftentimes, depending on the price point, a lot of people I find have cash when they plan on buying a house, a lower price house, $10,000, $20,000. Sometimes they don't even have a bank account. They call that more so like mattress money. You want to move away from having that mattress money and work on opening up a bank account and start moving that money into your bank account. If you plan on purchasing a property through a business name, a lot of times people set up like a LLC. You want to make sure that you go ahead and complete that paperwork and set up that LLC or whatever it is that business structure that you want to do. To set up an LLC, it's about $99. You can complete the application online through the Secretary of State. It takes a few minutes to do that, and also applying for your tax ID number. If you are buying it as an investment property, if you're going with an FHA or conventional type loan, you would need to keep that property in your name. But we want to get back to opening those bank accounts. A lot of people are also using check cashing companies, whether it be the convenience store or just these payday advance places to cash their checks when they get paid weekly. You spend a lot of money when you think about that. Sometimes, it could be as much as $100 or keeping from your paycheck. We want to make sure that we get away from doing that. Create a little bit more stability there for yourself. Just slow down a little bit. Oftentimes they're going to these check cashing places just because it's quicker. Because when you deposit a check, oftentimes you have to wait a day for that check to clear in your bank account. Slow down a little bit. Take a moment and slow down the spending on there. Open up that bank account and set up direct deposit. I know that there's the Wood Forest Bank, which is located in Walmart. They are more so like a second chance bank if you are in check systems. And then work on clearing up any check cashing or any check systems, situations that you may have. Go ahead. We want to start being a little bit more financially responsible and start working on that. It doesn't have to happen overnight, but we just don't want to ignore that. And some other things that you can do is also start using or getting a prepaid credit card if you can't apply or you find that you're getting denied for a credit card. Sometimes if you have no credit, you will also get denied just because you don't have any established credit. So you can do things like you issuing a prepaid credit card. That prepaid credit card is where you take some of your money and you put it out on that credit card. So you're just spending the money that you have out there. So if you put $200 on it, you have $200 to spend, but it is helping you to build and establish credit. And sometimes with the prepaid credit cards, it's called a prepaid credit card, but they will start you out with like a lower limit, like I just mentioned, maybe like $200, and you don't have to put anything down on there. Or maybe you just pay a flat fee, $50, and then they give you a card for $200. So it's definitely worth looking into. I believe Capital One has one of those, and some of your local banks like a PNC or like Huntington will also offer these type of cards. You want to do that sooner than later. Definitely if you file bankruptcy, you have 2 years before a lender will actually kind of meet with you and provide a loan to you. So during that 2-year period, you want to make sure that you are reestablishing your credit, so that way a couple of years down the line, you're in a position to purchase a home if that's what you choose to do. So the goal is always to build and repair. So even if you have, we'll just say a 700, 750 credit score, there's always things that we can be doing to improve the way that we show our credit, improve the way that how we, hold assets. So even once you get to a certain level, we want to always not just get there and then forget about it. We want to always build and plan for it. And then if you are in that building stage, you don't want to get discouraged. These are things that, a lot of times it took you many years to get into a situation of having bad credit. And then you have to have a little patience and commitment to getting out of that same credit situation. So every day, every week, every month, just looking at like how you're spending your money, creating that plan and working your way, out of debt and just working on repairing your credit. So I do want to take a few minutes here. I'm going to pull up my screen and I want to just show you where we're at with the May numbers. And I'm actually doing a recap of May 31st. So last week I shared with you the May 31st numbers, but we had just entered the month. And so a lot of the data was still coming in. It was really too soon before everyone kind of uploaded or updated the MLS system to see where we were at. So for May 31st, 2020, we ended at number of sales, 1,483. And versus in 2019, we had a number of home sales, 1,976. So I would say that given where we were at, majority of the county was under quarantine. That's not bad. I expected it to be very far off. So the average sale price was $187,000 in May. And last year we were at $184,000. Number of new listings for May was 2,021. And in 2019, number of new listings was 2,684. Again, I am shocked that we even made it over to the 2,000 hump, being in quarantine and people wanting or willing to even put their home on the market when we were dealing with the pandemic. The average days on market for May was 54, and last year it was 63. So last year, homes were sitting on the market or taking, on average, 63 days to sell, whereas in this market with the pandemic, we were at 54. So we are still seeing that there is still low inventory. We've been dealing with a low inventory all year. And so when the pandemic hit, it just kind of made the situation a little bit more intense. I have buyers who are out here looking. We've been looking probably for months in some cases to help them find the right house in the right price point. Again, I cannot say this enough. If you're thinking about selling your home, now is the time to sell your home. There's a number of buyers. Sellers are getting more than what they're even asking for their home in some cases. So this is something to consider. As we start to move into July and August, we're going to start seeing a little bit, we should start seeing a little bit more inventory on the market because the market is starting to completely open back up. You have people who were planning to sell who have held off just a little bit because of the pandemic. So if you can beat that crowd, you have a greater chance of getting even more money for your property, right? So the next thing I just want to share with you this morning is, where do we move next? Where do we go from here? And so I want to start talking and giving a little bit more detail and ideas on what you could do. Are you thinking about moving into a multi-unit property, purchasing your first investment property? So I want to share with you, I came across this potential deal and I just want to share this property with you. Maybe it's for you, maybe it's just something for you to think about and just have an understanding of how all of this works. So this potential property is currently on the market. It's a 4-unit house, right? It's here in the Cleveland area, Cleveland West Side. The purchase price that they're asking for is $104,000. And the estimated repairs is about $30,000. There's only 2 units currently being occupied. One of them is only collecting $270 in rent. It looks like that unit may need a little bit of work, but it's clear that that tenant is paying way too low of rent on that property. So this property is going to take a little bit of work. You're going to put, this repair money into it at $30,000. To get the units ready or get everything up to speed where it needs to be at. The other unit is collecting $600 in rent. What I do like about it is that this property is not completely vacant. So you go in, at least you're starting to collect some money. So what that means is you can potentially buy this property and start renovating the units that are vacant and doing the work in the common areas of the property or any exterior work that needs, get those other units up and running. And then you can circle back to these other tenants and either increase their rents, move them out, or do whatever you have to do to get this fully operating to where it needs to be. So potentially, so some of the units are obviously a little bit bigger than other units. So potentially of the 4 units, 2 of the units you can collect about $750 in rent. One of the units, $650, and then one, it's very, very spacious. You can collect about $900 in rent per month. So that gives you $3,080 that you could collect in rent potentially once you get it all up and running. The rent on this property is, the taxes on this property is a little over $3,300 for the year. And then this is a much older home. So this is on Cleveland's west side. So something to keep in mind. A lot of the homes here in Cleveland you're going to see are much older. So you have to keep that in mind. We're just going to look at the bones and structure of the property to make sure it's still sound and intact and no foundation issues. I highly recommend that you consider hiring a home inspector before closing on the property, just to make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. This potential property is, like I mentioned, it's on Cleveland West Side. There is a lot of meat on the bones in terms of what you can do with this property. Lots of activity and new construction and going around in this marketplace. If you are one that likes to look at the cap rates, we are just under 20% on the cap rate on this property once you get it fully occupied and operating If you want more information on this property or this potential deal, please reach out to me. You could send me a DM and I'm happy to answer those questions for you, or you can go ahead and put that information in the chat box. I will continue to, pull some properties that I think might be a good deal. If you want to know a little bit more about the Cleveland market, you're unfamiliar, what should you buy next? I like to look at a lot of the opportunity zones. Not all of them are my favorite, but I have a few favorites in terms of opportunity zones. So I like to look in those areas because that gives me my projections of what the city is thinking and what's happening and where to go next. So again, if you are joining me for the first time today, thank you very much. Make sure you hit the subscribe button because I always share information just like this and a little bit more. So again, send me a DM or you can give us a call at 216-220-7886 and have a wonderful Monday, guys.